Okay. Welcome to another glorious day in City of Heroes Homecoming. I'm once again playing Adam Antine. Used to be Adam Ant. But, as I said before, he's gotten a rename, and I won't be mentioning that again. He is Adam Antine now. So, now we're going to start up the next arc. Working with this, Robert Flores. Okay. This guy is a really excited reporter of some kind. You can actually ask about the contacts, get their backstory. So this guy's trying to help the resistance, and he's also trying to make a career as a journalist. And here we learn a little bit of the backstory about how Praetorian Earth is recovering from the Hamadon Wars. Hamadon is classic end boss of City of Heroes. A gigantic amoeba that used to be a human being until he somehow tapped into a massive source of power and became a giant monster. And he wound up being the endgame raid of City of Heroes. One of a few different raids, actually. But for a long time, he was the only raid. It used to be, really difficult. But Paragon developers eventually realized that difficulty was ridiculous. Essentially, if you didn't have several teams of dedicated controllers constantly keeping Hamadon on lockdown, and a team of dedicated tanks constantly keeping Hamadon's attention, and a team of dedicated defenders constantly keeping everybody alive. And it had to be healers because Hamadon just ignored all defenses and resistances. It was very, very simplistic design. Now, I've mentioned several times, second MMO generation design. But if anybody slipped just once, and there'd be, around 200, maybe even 250 people. The map server would lag the hell out. So anybody slipped just once, which they probably would because of all the lag, Hamadon's organelles wouldn't even be necessary. He would just open up what everybody called the Yellow Death, where he would just spew out like 8 boss level mitochondrias for every player on the map, hence Yellow Death, because the quote-unquote enemies were yellow, like colored yellow, and they glowed. And the first time I saw it happen, I was like, oh god, he pees on us. It's just horrific, or was. Now, that doesn't happen. Hasn't happened for a great many years. Now the zone, let's see, you can have 16, yeah. Now the zone has a maximum of 50 people. And the different organelles have mechanics actually built into them. Yellows can only be beaten with melee. Blues can only be beaten with ranged. Greens, they're constantly healing everything, but you can lock them down with holds. And once locked down, they can be beaten because that stops their regeneration. They have a very specific mechanic for that. Once they're beaten, you can fight Hamadon. You beat him down to you beat out 1/4 of his health. The organelles respawn, and you have to go through the cycle again. Or at least that's how it's supposed to be done. Most raids basically just wipe out the first batch of organelles and then hit Hamadon's main core with everything they've got until it dies, and hopefully they get him before the respawned organelles can kill them. Which they usually do. I'm sure if the Paragon devs were still working on this game, they would have set up something for that. Now, Praetorian Earth dealt with a Hamadon. And now one of the major cities on the planet is surrounded by a lush jungle. Now there's a reason why I'm doing this. I don't know if I'll see it. I never have. But I've heard it's there. Somewhere. I'm not going to be crossing the bridge. That leads into the next zone, and I'm not ready for that. I think I'm outside of draw distance anyway. Now the Hamadon is the leader of the Devouring Earth. It created the Devouring Earth back when it was a human scientist. devouring Earth are plant monsters and rock monsters. The website TV Tropes calls them Gaia's Vengeance. That's a TV trope, by the way, not an alternate name for them. Think of it as if Poison Ivy from Batman was suddenly given like godlike powers. Is that a badge I just ran past? Oh, shoot. Oh, well. Now, like I said, I was looking for something, but it doesn't look like I'm gonna see it. Supposedly, you can see a tentacle rise up in the background. And that's the Hamadon. Subtly reminding the denizens of Praetoria that it's still there. And so here's Robert talking about the Hamadon War. Robert here is talking about how his dad also served in the Hamadon Wars, but because his father didn't support Emperor Cole, he was essentially erased from history. Just a subtle reminder of what kind of setting this is. And he's having me mess with some of the city's security cameras. So in Praetoria, the society is very stratified. People with superpowers are, of course, the first-class citizens. Everybody else, well, they're lucky if they're considered even third-class citizens. The second-class citizens, that would be the soldiers. Everyone who, the normal people who are rapidly not becoming normal people, or rather they're becoming not normal people, as they're given high-tech armor and superpowers. But they're the army that supports Emperor Cole. Brutal and sycophantic. Or sycophantic. History of Information. Some guy named Eddie Polstra. And just when you're getting bored, you're sent on a mission to actually fight through enemies and reach an objective. I'm not going to wear my best duds into a sewer. As you can see, when ghouls here are defeated, they heal their fellow ghouls. One of the things I talk about with my buddies is the fact that City of Heroes going rogue, it seems like it was specifically designed to be troublesome for veteran players. I mean, see that there? The heal has a delay effect on it. So I hit the guy, and I defeat one of the ghouls, immediately move on to the next ghoul, and hit him. But the heal effect kicks in a little bit afterwards. It just clashes with the usual approach to how you play the game. And this kind of tactical thinking at this level, level 5, that's not normally something that you see even in more modern MMOs or even more modern games. Like, the way this game works, level 10 is when you start seeing stuff that's different get thrown at you. The Circle of Thorns produces wizards that can make shields or produce earthquakes. The Council starts introducing grenade launchers. But here in Praetoria, we get weird mechanics right off the bat. So you have to start thinking tactically. He's dazed. With a rock? And I just made a mistake. Fortunately, he had somewhere else to be. And he's coming back. Come on, big boy. And rock. Oh, yeah. Coward. You to death with my metal arms. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but one of the funny things I learned is that the concept of Warden and Crusader is an aspect that comes out of Battletech. And I don't know if it actually comes out of any other games or is featured in any particular aspect of history, but in gaming, Battletech had a section called the Clan Invasion, where some members of the clans considered themselves wardens. And their job was to reintroduce the setting's golden age, with as little loss of life as possible. And another faction was the Crusaders, where they were seeking glory. They didn't really care how much collateral damage they caused, just so long as they won. Here, the City of Heroes going rogue, the Resistance also divides itself between Crusaders and Wardens. The Wardens, trying to find out the truth about what is going on in Pretoria, liberating the people through acts of compassion and defense, or just tearing down the worst structures of the setting, while the Crusaders are just trying to blow everything up. And the funny thing is that the Loyalist Praetorians are similarly divided on those lines. But their division is just power and responsibility. Oh good, ghouls are attacking. All of that just to learn that this Eddie Polstra guy is a new Praetorian. Behind the scenes, Eddie Polstra was the character Maelstrom. A new character created by a new developer. Not a homecoming developer. A guy who was new when they were making Going Rogue. He's an interesting sort. The story hypes him up. When you fight him on an individual basis, he's not that tough. When you fight him in one of the endgame kind of missions, kind of raids, they're called trials. So you fight him in something called the TPN trial. I can't remember what TPN stands for. Total Praetorian News. Basically, you're trying to reveal the truth of what happened in the Hamadan Wars to the public so that they'll turn against Emperor Cole. And Maelstrom tries to stop you. And now he's empowered. He's actually really tough in that because he's one of the few characters designed to ignore the game's no one-shot kills rule. Okay. Now, I'm not going to take that just yet. I could go with more damage resistance. I could go with more regen. But I think I'm going to go ahead and hold off on that for now. And go for flight. But how do I justify him being able to fly now? I mean, he's covered in tungsten. Or adamantium. can fly now. Superman. Although in all fairness, practically anybody that flies is doing the Superman. This is another Superman. This one's not so much Superman. This is more Supergirl. I hate to say that, but it's true. And this is the Power Girl pose. It's not actually how she flies. It's just... If you know the character, you'd understand the joke. Arms outstretched, chest presented. Okay. Let's see, is there a fifth? No. Then the default fly pose. But yeah, he's covered in adamantium. His body is one of the heaviest things on the planet. You know, for its size. Incredibly massive for such a short frame. Now, this one actually has wings. So that makes some sense. I could just leave it as is, which I think I will. When I get this costume slot unlocked, I'll go ahead and make an outfit that incorporates some different wings. But I could do it here too. It would mean getting rid of this, which isn't too bad. Except I lose all of this great armor. Oh, I wonder. Maybe I can go ahead and get it anyway. But we wind up with clipping. I just love that shoulder armor, though. I'm not really keen on how the back cape is being clipped by the wings. You know what? I'm going to leave that as is. Like I said, this outfit, I'll be able to make something more from the ground up. Spoke with someone named BV. Not ringing any bells. Alright, so focus. Eddie doesn't need our help. That's right. Eddie, we're going to have to go to the source. Ministry of Information. Okay. Doesn't have any 1984 vibes at all with a name like that, but of course the funny thing is that unlike 1984, when they call themselves the Ministry of Information, they're not lying. And they don't have a group called the Ministry of Love. And if they did, this is the guy who'd be in charge of it. But yeah, Ministry of Information, they do handle information. What they tell the public might not exactly be the truth. But on the same token, that doesn't mean that they don't know what's going on. They don't just memory hole shit the way people did in 1984. Some members of the Resistance have planted several dud bombs around the Ministry. Okay. Duds. Sure. Let's say we can trust them to have done that. Okay, just me going inside to retrieve a file. Name, Eddie Polstra, changed to Edward, sounds formal. Place of birth, Old San Jose. Check to see how many people in Pretoria are former residents. May want to change to a different location. Eddie, Edward Polstra, is a prime example of a citizen who refuses to allow the enemies of Pretoria to win. Polstra fought against a large group of resistance in order to protect the supplies being sent to one of our many allies out in the east. Add that supplies were for children or another group that can't defend themselves. Now, I suppose I could have stuck around and fought. I'm not trying to out-level the content, though. Only able to get this far because of a guy named Paolo Marino. Veteran players of City of Heroes know who Paolo Marino is, or at least if they're the people who pay attention to the lore. But people who speedrun through things like the Miss Liberty Task Force, however, would better know Paolo Marino as the Wretch. Nightwing. Got a kitty in my lap. Okay. So, are you ready for Are you up for a play date with BV and a hive of ghouls? Oh, Robert, you make it sound terribly enticing. And this is a moment where you'd be able to betray the resistance if you were a loyalist. I'm not. This symbol means resistance, and this character is going to be staying as a warden as long as I can. One of the funny things about going rogue is that they made it so you could flip-flop through the different factions as you went. You could play as a resistance member who's just playing all the angles. In other words, doing all of the arcs. So doing loyalist missions and betraying the PPD to the resistance. Or once you started working with the PPD, you could start getting loyalist missions and turning loyalist. Betray the resistance. So you wind up going all over the alignment spectrum. You could just do hardcore Crusader and blow up a lot of buildings and kill a whole lot of people. It's actually kind of unsettling. It wound up leading to a lot of conversations on the City of Heroes forums where people were going, so I spent my time as a Crusader. I murdered a lot of people doing that. And yet, when I finished the Praetorian missions, they told me I was a hero. Yeah, so it's weird. gone deep. That's another thing about this. With my mission settings, level plus 0 times 0, which defaults to you've got the one character there and they're experiencing it as one character. So in those parameters, when it says times 0, what it really means is times 1. It just means that you haven't messed around with the settings yet. However, with those settings, I should not be seeing lieutenants. So, yet another thing that Going Rogue messed around with about veteran players' expectations. Kind of wishing I'd taken that armor, but I think it'll be alright. It'll be a little rough, but I'll be okay. Out. That was a close one. Sadly, I'm a child of the 80s. As you can tell, I'm not using these. I'm very pointedly not using those. It causes me mental anguish to burn good resources on minions. I blame Nintendo for that. what TV tropes would call Nintendo hard. It permeates my playstyle and damn near everything I do, where it's constantly like, I can't use this great thing because I might need to use it later. You guys fighting on railroad tracks? Actually, the weird thing about those tracks is that they're concrete. One thing I always wondered was if the developers ever had a plan to actually have a train or a tram car come hurtling through here. Just make that one more element to watch out for in this setting. Would have been interesting. Like, oh boy, I'm gonna have to fight those ghouls. Oh, never mind. Or say you end up kiting an entire group of ghouls and then you run them into the tracks. I mean, you don't get any experience points for it, but you wipe out the obstacle. Or you're not paying attention, all of a sudden you see a screen transition and you're like, hey, what's going on? And your character comes to in the Praetorian hospital. You get a message from Provost Martian. Yeah, we had to peel you off the front of the tram. When you're on the job, kinda watch your back on the tracks, okay? Now I'm going to do something, and once I do it, you might never unhear it. The song is Aqualung. Pointed that out to Unholy, and he was like, God damn it. You guys throw rocks, I throw knives. It's a metal that seemed to be growing out of my armor. That's how I picture it for Adam Antine. That it's not bonded to his body, it's part of his body. Sort of like the same way that it is for Colossus. this is all new to him. He doesn't know why he's like this. 2 bosses. You know what? I think I just found the moment where I'm going to need to use these. Bone Eater and Man Eater. I wonder if these guys are supposed to be a reference to the old Skulls bosses of Bone Drinker and Marrow Snap. Ooh, big beefy boys. No idea what that was supposed to do. Make him stronger, I guess? And here she is, BV, Belladonna Vetrano. Or, as City of Villains players know her, Ghost Widow. The man's name is Dark Watcher. Again, a lot of Going Rogue's writing was designed around veteran players. It's like a lot of tongue-in-cheek references to stuff that veteran players had already seen for years. The weird thing, though, was Going Rogue was advertised as a new game for new players to get involved with, which it did get. It must have been weird for a lot of them, seeing all of these tongue-in-cheek references and being like, why'd they highlight this guy's name? It's like, okay, I guess I'll be meeting this Dark Watcher guy later, huh? Yeah. Much later. Well, ish. Praetorian characters actually get to talk with Dark Watcher earlier than normal City of Heroes and City of Villains players. And even though I didn't tell the PPD, we've got an ambush on the way. And they're going to be 1 level lower than me. I could have done this next to Belladonna. She would have helped me with the fight. But this is just standard 3-man groups. That was Robert Flores' arc. PPD are planting tracking devices on ghouls now. How do they even do that? We kind of find out how later. I mean, it helps when the ghouls are made by Praetorian scientists. Someone needs your help. That guy, Paolo Marino. The only way you're going to be able to help him is if you meet up with Tunnel Rat. Not every Praetorian has a counterpart in the normal game. Tunnel Rat is one of those characters who does not have a counterpart, although a lot of people did wonder. They were like, who's Tunnel Rat supposed to be? And it's like, nobody. There's nobody in the normal City of Heroes setting who looks like this. But I'm going to go ahead and level up, enhance up, and park next to Tunnel Rat for the next recording. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.